Welcome back to LA Legends, where Aflac pros sharpen skills, swap stories, and build the Los Angeles South market one legend at a time. Quick commercial, you can now find us on YouTube and follow along there. My name is Michael Fisher.
And I'm Michelle Lee. Today's episode is going to focus on onboarding, coaching, and leadership. And as a district sales coordinator, how can you make an impact every single week with your associates? And so we're going to dive right into things, Michael, and we're going to talk through, let's go right into the why, what we're trying to accomplish, right? Onboarding matters because it shows the outline and the trajectory path for our team. And it allows them to set their goals up front, but also it's their goals where we can actually hold them accountable to each when, especially when it comes to making sure they achieve their why and their focus and what they're trying to build for their families. So we're going to dive right into it. And by the way, you guys can find all the documents I'm about to share in our vault. If you don't have access to it, give me a shout out and I'll make sure you get access to the vault as well. So we're going to dig right into our onboarding. And so right now you can see our onboarding, our weekly tracker. And why is it so important to start every single week with our setting our goals on a Monday, right? So every Monday, Michael, if you were sitting next to me, making sure you set your goals for your approaches for the week, meeting scheduled, AP written, new accounts. We do a halftime checkpoint on Wednesdays, right? Sales practice meeting, checking in, and then Friday going over results and a coaching conversation, which we're going to actually spend some time on going through today as well. So why don't we actually dig into that role playing portion, Michael, and start with onboarding? Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. So, do I get to be the new associate on this one?
You get to be the new associate on this.
Awesome. Awesome.
So I'm going to use the fillable version, but you guys can also print this out. Michael, as a brand new associate, what brought you to AFLAC? What made you say, yes, this is going to be a new career for me?
The interview kind of happened by happenstance. Just my friend's mom happened to work at Aflac, and I saw that she had a pretty incredible life. So I was like, hey, why don't I try this thing out? But I've also kind of like understood what the product does, and I think some people could really benefit from what Aflac does.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and thank you to your AFLAC mom for at least extending this opportunity to you as well. What does your, let's say, 6 months goal look like? Like whether it's income, what are you working towards? Is there something that you want for yourself? Talk me through and tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve in the next 6 months.
I mean, I haven't really thought about it too much, but the first time I was in my regional sales coordinator talked about this like, double fireball thing, which, if I do that, I think I'd make like almost 15,000 bucks. So I want to try that. Besides that, I just like want to be able to say like, hey, I can close an account from A to Z by myself. That will mean a lot to me by the end of this for sure. At the end of the first 90 days or 6 months.
That's important, right? Over the next 90 days, as you're working towards that double fireball, I'll make sure that I show you the ropes on how to actually accomplish that. So no worries on that one. So that's over the next, let's say, 90 days to 6 months. Now, I want to actually go back. What is something that is a motivator for you? Because your motivation is going to be different from mine. So if something goes wrong, how do I get that, motivation going again for you?
I'd say the real one is my family. They've really bet on me. And they've kind of just been there through me for my entire life. So I really just want to give back to them. And I saw these trips and all that stuff. I'd love to, take my family on vacation and just be able to show them thank you. And for the future fishers, I hope that they know that they can actually go after and chase their dreams too. So, that's what I'm hoping for at least.
Well, hope is one thing, but putting action to it is another. And we want to make sure we put action to what you're striving for is the ability to give back to your family. Can you actually can you put a window, let's say, to that of, what's one action you can do to give back in the next, let's say, 90 days? And we can work to make sure we drive towards that for you.
I mean, I think that income would be big if we were able to hit that. that $15,000 mark. That would be way more than what I've been used to. But I'd say, in 2 years, 2 to 3 years, being able to hit that six-figure mark, that will be big for me. That's the one that, um, nobody so far in my family, or not many people, have been able to get there. So I'd love to try to achieve that.
We're going to put the process in place to make sure you hit that double fireball that I know you want for that 15,000. So as we go through, we're going to walk through the Elevate guide that you have in front of you as well. We're going to talk through some of that, and then set up some expectations so you and I are on the same page. And also the calendar. The calendar is important, making sure you know what you're doing, especially for the first 90 days to help build that structure until you create that. Let's get you registered for sales school and a couple of these online instructor-led courses. And let's make sure you get set up in the system. And the last thing we're going to do before we end this onboarding is to kind of talk through how you can actually build your lead list. On top of me giving some to you, I definitely want to show you how you can source some yourself and build yourself in your own community. And then as we go through, we talked about the goals. We're going to walk through this so you know exactly how many approaches you need to do every single week to make sure you stay on top of that double fireball goal that you're striving for as well. So that is just a quick run through, you guys, of an onboarding conversation. They all don't sound the same, but more importantly, it's structurally given to you in your coaching guide as a district, but as a new associate, you have it in your Elevate guide to walk you through that step as well, which is pretty amazing because it's a process that we're trying to build out, right? Or trying to leverage. My apologies.
Absolutely. And I'll just tell you all, for me personally, and I know that Michelle's had these moments, sometimes, and especially if you've been in the business for a little bit, you're having this conversation again with yourself. You might be at the start of a quarter, you might be like, hey, it's 2026 now. And something is going to change in my life. What I want you to do is still leverage these exact same tools because they work and are pretty interchangeable, whether you're brand new in the business, or if you've been here for a year. And Michelle and I could both tell you, we were both slow starters in this career. So I had this conversation with myself about 6 to 9 months in, where I was like, okay, actually, I'm going to take this really seriously now. So these tools are always there for you.
Attracting and keeping the best talent means offering more than just a paycheck. Aflac Value Added Services delivers real life support for your team. Telehealth from MeMed allows employees to connect with a licensed, board certified medical or behavioral health provider by phone or video and receive personalized treatment anytime, almost anywhere. MeMD is also available as an employer paid offering. Aflac Value Added Services, because supporting your team means supporting their whole well being.
Well, let's pretend that we went through this exercise, and we know that Michelle needs to hit these approach goals. So I was keeping track of it, and I'm using my DSE, the coaching thing. And Michelle told me on Monday that in order to hit her goals, she was going to do 300 approaches. She actually told me that she was going to do internally. She was like, "Oh, I'll do 200 phone or 200 in person, 100 phone calls, whatever." That was fine. She said she was going to schedule 5 meetings. She said she was going to do $4,000 of AP that week. And she told me that she was going to close one new account. I want to always start off with the why of why you're doing what you're doing before we dive into the numbers. Can you tell me again, just like every Friday, what's the reason why you decided to come here to Aflac and that you're doing this crazy career?
To actually help people and getting out there. I know that every phone call or every door I walk through, I can actually help the other individual at the end of that meeting. Because we don't know what happens. So being able to help people and it by picking up the phone and walking through that door, I know what the end game is, and that's why it's important to me. I can help more people.
True vision of being able to help other people. And that's why, you're going to have a ton of success here. So, as always, on Friday, we're just going to do a couple things. One, we're going to be very transparent about our numbers to know where you're at from your objectives. We're just going to talk a little bit through just like, hey, what meetings, what we did throughout the week. Talk a little bit in skill set, and then just make sure that we have some action items for next week. So, Let's dive into it real quick. Now we had a goal for 300 approaches. How many approaches did we end up at for this week?
263. I fell short of my goal, but I know I can make up the rest of it before I end today.
Fantastic. So yeah, it leaves you with a little debit balance of 37. But yeah, it's early on Friday, so I believe they could absolutely hit that. Let's talk a little bit on results. What's meeting scheduled so far this week?
I did get 5, which is a cool part. I was able to hit up
Wow.
this community. It was two streets, and I actually was able to do that. I scheduled 3 appointments in that one time out in the field right off the bat, which is pretty cool. So I did get my 5.
That's fantastic. So you just kind of were stacking appointments out of the field. I love that. That's the best time to get an appointment is after you get an appointment. So congratulations. Now let's talk about in your bank account. So AP written. What did you end up of AP written this week? So not what issued on RPM, but how much you actually wrote out in the field.
I'm proud of this. I was actually able to hit my goal in a then some, so I wrote about 4,200 this week.
4,200. All right, you're a rock star. I wish every one of my meetings went like this. Okay, and then, last one, the new account objective. So, you said that you're gonna hit 1 new account this week. So, tell me, how many new accounts did we hit with?
I'm actually at 0 because I didn't hit my goals last week in my appointment, so I didn't have a lot to run the appointment. So I'm at 0 for the week, but I'm feeling good about the 5 I scheduled, so I should definitely have it by next week.
Okay, alright, sounds good. So, yeah, part that we always are focused on are definitely the activity and meeting schedule. That's the part that's under your control. Let's, talk about what the meetings that you actually ran this week. Because I know that you had a couple in the pipeline, so let's talk about the meetings that you actually had going this week.
I had John's going, and that was a straight up no.
Okay, so as we always talk about when we're going through our ratios, right now, if you are running 5 meetings, one is going to be usually be a yes, one of them will definitely be a no, and three should be a should. So, let's talk about a couple others. So, what other meetings do we have going?
We got Michael's tattoo parlor, and
Nice.
I did walk away with the second meeting because his partner, I had to actually reschedule this one. His partner wasn't there when we were meeting. So I walked away with a second appointment, which is, on top of the 5 that I've scheduled for next week.
Okay, so you actually got there another date and time, and it's going to be all the right parties there, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
And then
you're
my
a rock star.
and then my last one was an HVAC company that you know what? I didn't do too well on. They kind of threw me some curveballs. I
Hmm.
didn't get a solid second appointment, which I got pushed off to, follow with me next week kind of thing. I will follow up. It's in that same area where I scheduled some appointments for next week. So I think if I could have done better, I probably would have walked away the second, but I didn't do well on that one.
You know what? I'm glad that you're being honest, and honestly, I'm glad that you're being honest with yourself on that because that's a big one. So, I'm gonna put, as we say in corporate America, we're gonna put a pin in that one, and then we're gonna follow right back up on that. So, I just wanted to, as always, just get a quick little pulse on the business. So this is just a quick one, but as far as skill set, how you feeling? Just rating yourself from 1 to 10 on scheduling an appointment. How you feeling at this stage?
Scheduling appointment, probably an 8. Pretty comfortable with it. I could probably do better on objection handling, but a solid 8.
I mean, if I'm looking at the ratios right now, you did 263, so you're at a 5 to 1 ratio or 50 to 1 ratio. So that is actually just doing a stellar job. So that's good stuff. So I would definitely say eight's right there. About running the DM conversation, how you feeling about that?
Man, after I fumbled this past on and that HVAC company, I swear it was at a 9, but I'm feeling back at a 6 this week just because he threw me some curveballs that I didn't know how to handle, which I'm hoping we can talk through today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just wrapping up here on the last two employee conversation. How you feeling on enrolling?
Pretty good. 8.
Great, fantastic. And then just servicing accounts, keeping on the books, all of that good stuff, getting referrals, using the service agreement. How you feeling there?
Go ahead and put a 7 because I'm terrible at asking for referrals, but I can definitely service an account. That's how I got that
Yeah,
42.
absolutely. Amen. Absolutely. So let's do this. We have a lot to uncover on for this week, but what I want to do is first off by saying, great job on the activity, great job on the meeting scheduled, and you did hit the AP goal. And those are the ones that I truly care about. On the new account conversion, that's a area that it is skill set, but we can be focused on that. So, anything else that you want to just say, if looking back at the this week that went right for you?
I'm glad I got the 5, even though I didn't do the 300, which I'm gonna make up today, but I got my 5, and I think if I can consistently hit 5 appointments, 'cause I didn't do that last week, um, I'm on the right track. So, that hitting that threshold, I felt good about at least getting that 5.
Yeah, totally agree on that. Now, and you should be very proud of that. So now let's talk about what went wrong. We kind of we dove into the HVAC follow, leaving with a follow up, which what our market slogan on this one is: if you're leaving without a date and a time, what are we actually counting that as? A yes, no, or a second appointment?
That is a no. If I'm walking away with a follow-up, that is a no.
Yeah, so yeah, just and because follow-ups they can be ambiguous, but hey, if you are able to get that one back on the books, that's amazing. But I'm actually more proud of you as counting that one as a no, than anything, because good hopes they don't pay the bills. But we do want to talk about it from a skill set perspective, and maybe we could just do like a quick little short like role play session on this. So at the end of the conversation, when they gave you the objection of like, hey, you know what, Michelle, give me a call next week and we can put another time on the calendar. How did you address that objection in that moment?
So normally when I get that, I'm very diligent about doing our upfront contract. I don't ever start a meeting without doing the upfront contract and doing the takeaway of asking if they're comfortable to telling me no. If they're good with the yes, can we just make sure we pencil a second date? And then for some reason, I don't know what happened when it came back to that. I brought it up, but he just wasn't willing to budge. And instead of going back to him and saying, you know what, most time when business owners says they want to think about it, want me to follow up without that second date and time, are you comfortable for me taking that as a no? And I just didn't have the confidence to push for that no when no. I think it
Absolutely.
was more of an internal just being thrown off that he wasn't willing to pencil a second date and time in the calendar.
Hey, I understand, Michelle. So let's just talk through this real quick. First, amazing diagnosis, and you being able to uncover that. I mean, that's fantastic. So, um, the one or two things I'll just say is just this is all about practice and getting comfortable in those uncomfortable conversations. One thing I'll tell you is reminding yourself of your why. I mean, behind that employer, there are 20, 25 people that if you are brave enough to have that very direct conversation, you are going to give them that financial needs and protection that, is your why and the reason why you're doing this. So, in those moments of having that kind of courageous conversation, what I'm going to ask you to do, just remind yourself of that why. Now, as far as giving yourself just an action item, I know that the market, they have a recording of the scope of work agreement. I feel like maybe listening to the scope of work agreement conversation that the market does a couple times, that will be helpful. But why don't you work with somebody on the team? You know what? I could get you paired up with Tammy, and maybe actually just do some role play of that objection. So then next time that you hear it, it's not going to be like, oh no, I'm pausing and panicking because they said, give me a call on Tuesday. It's just going to make it so it's second nature for you to be able to overcome that objection. Is that something that you're uncomfortable, or is that something you're comfortable doing?
Yeah, hey, if I can get more practice, right, I think I can get more comfortable with it. And it's that repetition that they taught us in sales school. So, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's something else if you're just kind of stretching, and I know that you have big goals for yourself. So I know you're going after that double fireball and all that stuff. So looking at that, what's maybe one additional thing that you can do just to push yourself to make sure that you're able to get the three that should rather than just the one that's automatically going to say yes.
Great question. I don't know. Should I be
Well,
increasing my meeting scheduled? More
You know,
activity?
I absolutely. I mean, we could always do more meetings is going to eventually lead to more sales, more skill in meetings. I'm going to tell you though, from a sustainability perspective, I love where you're at with your approaches and meetings scheduled right now. So I'm definitely okay with those. But maybe just adding one more area of practice. One that one of my coaches does is actually they even role play and practice with Chat GPT and say before their meetings, and they say, "Hey, pretend you're HVAC company in Santa Ana with 25 employees, and this is a business owner's name. Can you help prepare me with some of these objections?" Because hey, could be an added little thing for you to do because it just again is going to increase that skill set and make sure that you're doing well. Um, how's that sound?
Oh, I didn't know we could do that. That's gonna be fun. I can definitely
It
do that on top of working with Amy.
My, ChatGPT is mean to me, but okay. Yeah, yeah. So you'll have fun with that, but, I wanted to say, Michelle, thank you for your transparency in this conversation. The truth that I'll always say is that sometimes, and I'm speaking from experience that, early on in this career, sometimes we lie to ourselves a little bit because it's like, "Oh my gosh," like, I've faced rejection and things like that, but the more upfront you are, the more that we're able to coach and the faster that you're gonna be a absolute rock star here. So keep at it. Now, final one, just as a quick reminder, you are going after the double fireball was total was $50,000 of AP. You're absolutely rocking it. So just as a reminder, you're $15,000 of AP away, and you still need two more accounts. Because you've been close in ton. But we have 3 weeks to get those goals. 4 weeks to get those goals. So what we're going to be doing is making sure that we have a plan in place. So I'm gonna have you pull out your calendar, make sure that we have the actual meeting scheduled, the enrollment set, and the activity required to fill up that deficit, and make sure that we are absolutely crushing it next week. You ready to do this?
Let's go.
Every hero needs a sidekick. The site seller is yours, helping you ask the right questions, show the right numbers, and land the right solutions. Navigate conversations like a pro and turn every business owner into a believer.
Michelle, I wish that all associate conversations went that well. You are a absolute rock star, so good job on that. But what were some of your takeaways going through that?
I think really owning understanding your goals and the activity it takes to actually meet those goals. I think sometimes, there's nothing wrong with dreaming big, but if you're dreaming big but not doing the work behind it, that I think that's where a lot of discrepancies happen. And even struggles as a DSE, when I was a brand new district trying to coach someone that are saying one thing, but also knowing and understand that they're doing a different thing to begin with. And why tracking our activity, why we have such a simple activity tracker here. Because how many times as a district or and we'll ask an associate, hey, what did you do today? How did it go? Did you have some fun with it? And they're like, oh yeah, I knocked on some doors. And they go, so how many doors did you knock on? A lot of doors. And if you heard our previous podcast, a couple of our other guests talk about that, and recently with Evan, and he said, oh yeah, I knocked on so many doors. And then when he calculated, he's like, oh, maybe I skipped a few. So one, understanding like that being the goals that you have, they're there to help drive you to your goals, or to your ultimate why and what you're working towards, but actually writing down and tracking that activity makes such a big difference. And I think that's important here when you do your Friday coaching.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to actually just take a second to, address the thing, which is the self deception that sometimes we live in. We try to deceive ourselves and be like, hey, no, 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 I'm doing okay. But then it's like, what, did I just drive everywhere today and not actually like go in person and actually knock out doors? I've had those days. So I think being able to, on a daily basis, say, like, hey, no, I knocked on the 50 and I did that, that's everything. But let's talk through a couple of those courageous conversations because we do have some newer leaders in here. And, sometimes we have some veteran leaders that are like, okay, hey, I'm getting back on the coaching train and starting to coach people. So we have a couple different versions of it, but let's talk through. I'll do my one of my favorite ones, and then I'll let you do one of your favorites. But I'm gonna do what we call the early retirement conversation, which means that when I've had associates, and I stole this from my mentor Adam. When we have associates that maybe 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, they do the exact opposite of Michelle. They're like, you know what? I want to make six figures, but this week I did 45 calls and I scheduled one appointment this week. It's actually a follow up and it's an email actually. I scheduled an email or they're saying whatever that is. So it's not going great, but we know that they're not doing what's required in order for them to hit their income goal and hit their income targets. What that's going to sound like is more like this, like, hey, Michelle, you know what? Like, appreciate again you being honest with me, going through your actual activity for the week. And, you told us at the start of this meeting that your why is to take care of your kids and your family. And I just want to say that at this stage in the game, with that level of activity and execution, I can't say in good conscience that you're going to be able to achieve that. So, selfishly on my side, I don't want you to hate Aflac and I also don't want to like grow any resentment towards you or anything like that. I'd rather us part as friends. So, I'd say that the best thing for us to do is maybe consider this like let's do the early retirement. And that way you can still part ways with Aflac as friends. And then maybe even provide us referrals and stuff like that. Maybe come back when the time is right. I just don't want to leave that bad taste in your mouth. And unless somehow we can move this into a different direction. Michelle, can you tell me how do you feel about that?
I'm glad you're bringing that up because I think I've been having that conversation with myself, and I don't even know. I don't believe this is actually it for me.
Yeah, I mean, it isn't for everybody. And like honestly, I think that the way that you show up, the way that you care, we definitely appreciate that. So like, well, why don't we do this? Like, we'll grab a cup of coffee, and then what I want to do also is always get better as a coach too. So, and I know that you probably have some leads and stuff that maybe are hanging out there. We'll start getting those things assigned and any of those undue things that like maybe are on your list, but that way that we can get you transitioned out of there and, see you can move on to the next opportunity that's out there. And so again, I appreciate that transparency. So anyway, I want people to know this, that like having that conversation, number one is like you're letting people off the hook. Yeah. That, they maybe just don't want to disappoint you. Maybe they like you a lot. And, I think that's nice. The second thing I think it does is it kicks them in the ass for the ones that need an ass kicking. Because if they fight you at that point and say like, "Hey, screw you, man," like I'll actually, I am willing to do what it takes to be successful in here. That's exactly what we're looking for as well. So that's one of my favorite coaching conversations. Michelle, do you have any other favorites that for people that are just kind of getting in that coaching conversation? Any advice or specific conversations that you enjoy?
I think as you ended that, Michael, you want the individuals fighting back. But I'm going to bring it back to the very beginning of our conversation of onboarding and having like that conversation with myself, you know what I mean? And getting myself re-engaged back in it and realizing it's okay if I went through a gap of where I wasn't as engaged, but there's still a space for you today if you want to be a part of the team to show up. So it's going to go right back into that onboarding and setting the standard. And it's okay to hit reset in that
Yeah,
conversation as well. So if you might be having a conversation about early retirement and they're ready to fight, then let's onboard again. Let's go through the standard and the expectations again. And let's talk about an understanding like income goal. We've got people on our team that are 20, 30-year veterans that are happy doing what they're doing, that are still actively writing in their book. Like some of them are well into 200, 300,000 every single years consistently. And how do we support them? Because sometimes it's not a monetary thing too. We got to keep that in mind. Um,
yeah,
just,
absolutely. And absolutely. And I will say this, and I appreciate you just sharing that, Michelle, too, because ultimately the times that I've been the most disappointed, this is sometimes in people that I lead, is when I'm like, I don't see them realizing their potential. But most of the time, on my end, did not take a step back and ask them what their why was. and if they agreed upon the actual activity to help them get to their why. So if you are one of those people out there, if you have somebody that's frustrating you or you're frustrated, ask yourself the question of, hey, did I meet them face to face in person to understand what that person's why is? And did I actually make sure that we had agreed upon plan to hold them accountable to it? And if you have those two things, then we're all, the frustration kind of goes out the door. And so that's something that the mistake I've made plenty of times,
Me too.
and I'll definitely make it again. But it's one that we're trying. Okay, Michelle, are you ready for rapid fire?
Yes. The best part.
Okay, so this is fun. We get to do this together, and this one, we're not gonna give away a giveaway this week because we've got to keep people fresh. All right, Michelle. So, my question for you: if you could have lunch with one person, alive or dead, who would that person be, and why?
Okay. Originally, when I first got were bringing up the question, Ben Franklin came up, but I would actually love to sit with one of the Greek philosophers who I spent a lot of my undergrad studying Socrates. I
Yes.
think it's me, Socrates.
Socrates. Yeah, and as some of my genius Floridian friends, Socrates, they would call him Socrates. Uh, so Socrates, that's a good one. Ben Franklin, that was a really good one. I was listening to a podcast about him right now. I am going to change mine to one that would be dead. That would just be a fun time. And it would be Anthony Bourdain. I think that would just be a fun time. To just have a yeah, just a good time with. That one's not deep, but I think it would be fun.
That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the new question of the year for me, which I thought was pretty spot on. But because we are, being a market director is quite stressful, being a district, being a region, being an associate, starting a new career for yourself or a different position. If you're stressed to be a mascot for 2025, right? And we can go into 2026, what would it be?
It would definitely be a lion. It would definitely be a lion. Not only because it's our actual mascot, but it's because a lot of times I try to keep it simmered down and reserved, but yeah, sometimes that bad boy, you know, needs to roar. And so, lion is the one that definitely comes to mind for me. How about you?
Mine is very simple. I was going to be the tiger.
Nice.
I think asking that question is actually pretty cool about how you think about those the mascot in itself and how the characteristics of that and just describing it in one image of the year you've had, I think is pretty cool. Just a different way to view things, right? Putting a visual to something that's conceptual.
I love that. All right. So we are going to land this plane. If you did not listen to this episode, or if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, if you want to actually see the video, it is on YouTube. And I just want to say again, I always appreciate the team and I really appreciate my partner and Michelle Lee. So, Michelle, I'll let you close up shop.
Okay, to our listeners, if this episode hit home, share it with someone who needs the encouragement. This is the LA Legends where setbacks become set up. So don't forget to subscribe, share, join us next time. Until then, keep leading with purpose.